Happy Wednesday, my savvy service provider scaling to 10K months. Welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation today. This is something I think everyone can relate to, whether you sell high ticket or low ticket or hourly or whatever. Like if you've been in business for any sort of time or any amount of time, you might have people ghost you. So today we're talking about 3 tips to avoid the dreaded ghost and actually fill your high ticket spots. This is just an important conversation because I have this discussion with clients over and over, and this has happened to me. So I have 3 tips for you today that will really help you to be confident that when you get a yes on a call, they are actually going to sign your engagement letter. They are actually going to pay your invoice. Like, you don't have to question and worry, like, am I never going to hear from them again? Or they were a yes on a call and we had a great conversation and now they are not responding to any of my messages. It feels so shitty and I don't know what to do about it. So we are going to talk through exactly how to decrease that so that I can't promise it will never happen, but it will go down so much. It will make such a difference in your sales process. So can't wait to jump into that. First things first, it is pretty humid in Charleston today. So this is just my hair, but don't mind it if I keep messing with it because it's like kind of driving me nuts. But all that to say, if you join live or catch the replay, I've got a special giveaway. I am giving away my sales promo playbook. This was something I just shared with a client the other day and remembered how important this is and how necessary this is in your business to be able to write sales promos that connect and convert. That is part of your, sales journey. Hi, Jade. Thanks so much for coming. If you pop on, ask questions, have any comments, we're giving that away. So look for it on Friday. But I know that writing sales promos can be so hard for people and they just forget that that's like part of your content. Like, yes, it's great to have value content and get people to know you, but like we also need to write sales promos that like will have them take the next step. And so this playbook literally gives you the framework for that. It's like so easy. You can take it and use it in your post, in your landing page. Like you can use this in multiple ways. And so it's just really juicy. I share it with my one-to-one clients all the time, but I will give that away on Friday. So be sure to keep your eyes open for that. And let me double check that I'm actually live in the group because that's something I always want to make sure I'm doing. So we'll go ahead and dive in. Like, I know being ghosted feels like shit. Like, I have been there. I've literally had people be on a sales call. They're a yes to working together one-to-one for 6 months. Like, it was so easy. It was so great. Then I never heard from them again. And it's like, what just happened? Like, I don't understand. And my clients, this happens to them all the time too. So let's talk about that. Like that, let's normalize that. I don't want to make like a story that like something is wrong with your business or something is wrong with your offer or something is like you're doing it wrong. We are very much going to make sure that that doesn't happen nearly as much. Like, I used to have that happen, like, I wouldn't say frequently, but like, I can think of multiple occasions where people were a yes on the call and then I never heard from them again. And now that has not happened in probably 2 years. And so these tips today really do make a difference. And I know they do for my clients as well, so that it just becomes kind of like second nature. And this is just kind of how you do your sales conversations. And so I know this will make a difference. So we're going to talk this through. Let's see. The second piece before we jump in with the 3 strategy pieces, and that what I'm always reminding my clients is like, let's not use the word ghost. And I used it in the title so that you would know exactly what I was talking about, but I don't like using the word ghost. Let's just say they don't have the tools they need to be an empowered no. Like the person on the phone who's a yes or on your call is a yes, and then you never hear from them again. They probably weren't actually a yes on the call. They just felt so uncomfortable. They weren't able to be an empowered adult and like ask their questions or say their fears or say their objections. And like that, we don't want to call it ghosting because they're actually not ghosting you. They're actually kind of ghosting themselves and they didn't have the tools they needed. So I am always talking about the power of words and the power of what we tell ourselves. So if we keep walking around saying, they ghosted me, I've been ghosted, like that is really going to affect you, and it's going to create this story in your brain and in your business, and it will really affect how you run your business. So let's not even call it ghosting. Let's just say they just didn't have the tools to get what they needed. So they just weren't empowered enough to get what they needed to ask their questions. So those two things feel really important to say. Like, let's normalize it. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with your business. We are going to give you some tips and strategies to fix that so it drastically goes down. Maybe never happens again. I can't promise that, but it will drastically decrease it. And also, they're not ghosting you. You're just a human working with other humans. And sometimes we can't communicate what we need in the way that we need to. So let's go ahead and dive in, and let me know if y'all have questions. I know we've got some people on here live, or if you join the replay, throw your questions and comments at me, because this is literally for you. Oh, and I'm planning live stream topics for Q4. So if you have some ideas or certain topics or, conversations you want to have, let me know. I'll put a post in the group, but also just wanted to put that out there for y'all too. So let's talk about 3 tools that you can use on the call. So the first one is give them time to say what they want. And I know that this is so simple, but we typically know we can help someone within like a few minutes of talking to them. And we want to give them time to like let us know that we know what they want. Like, instead of us just being like, oh yeah, I've seen your case a million times and I know that we're a fit, and let me jump in with all the ways I can help you. Like, that is one of the key things that we need to really take time for on your sales calls, is like listening to them, because they might be interviewing multiple people. And I can promise you, if they are, if you give them time to say what they want, you're probably the only person doing that. Like, most people, myself included, I used to always do that. Like, oh yeah, I totally got you. I totally hear you. And like, we kind of jump in with how we can support them. But what we need to do is really give them time to like tell us what they want. Tell us what like they're getting on a sales call, so they are interested in you and your services, but they may not know exactly that your services are what they need. You may know that their services are what they need, but there's still a gap with them. That's why it's called a discovery call. Like, they need to be able to discover that you're the person that they want to work with and can help them solve their problem. So this first strategy piece of taking the time to listen to what they want and not jump in with how you can support them, or have you seen this a million times, or we do this all the time. Like, let them really take that time to tell you what they're looking for and what they need. And then once they do that and have the time to do that, that's when you can really use your pitch and use that connection to, connect the dots for them of why your services will help them. Like, we don't want to just assume, like I offer one-to-one services. If I hop on a call and I'm immediately like, yes, my one-to-one supports you with this, and I know that like I've seen 5 clients who have been in your same situation, like, let me tell you all my things. And they're like, I don't even really know that one-to-one support is what I need or what I'm sold on yet. Like, they need to get to that point. So I want to allow them time to tell me, like, I've tried group programs, I've tried courses, I've tried this. I'm actually looking for someone in my corner. I'm actually looking for someone to be there every day that I can message and that I can ask questions and that I can have a mentor and have someone looking at my data and numbers. Like, I'm letting them kind of get to all of that together, and then telling them, like, here, this is exactly what I do and exactly what I can support you with, so that you aren't alone, so that you are having accountability, having, someone with you to review your content, review your post, review your landing pages. And so that's what I really want to make time and space for. That way you're helping connect the dots for the transformation, because we're not just like showing up on the call and you're not just telling them how many meetings they get and what it costs and how much support they get from you. Like, you're really showing them that those pieces will get them what they want. So if you don't know what they want, it's really hard to connect those pieces for them. And so that's when they feel like they haven't been seen, they haven't been heard, that you don't really even know them or their health or their business, and you have an agenda that you're trying to, sell them on, and they just don't feel like you know them and that what you sell actually supports them. It's almost like you're not just talking at them, you want to have a conversation with them. So very much give them time to have that conversation with you and have that discovery with you that your services are what they need, and it does get them the results and the transformation that they want. So I do have an example of just me recently. I hired a new VA. We took the month off of July. I went to the mountains, and I knew when I came back, I immediately needed to hire a new one. So I had multiple calls lined up with people. And the one I hired, it was exactly because she sat there and was like, this is all very basic stuff. Like, what do you really want? And that's when I knew, like, yes, you're the person I'm hiring, because she said that. Like, all the other people were like, yes, that's so basic. We totally got you. Here's what I can do. Here's how I've helped other clients. Like, they immediately jumped in with like all of their stuff. And like, it is basic stuff. It's posting in my Facebook group and scheduling things and scheduling an email. Like, it's not anything crazy, but because she like named that, was like, hey, this is all basic stuff. Like, what do you really want? That made me feel so seen. And she was the person I hired, because it wasn't just about like, oh, of course I can do those tasks with my eyes closed. Like, it was literally like, what do you really want? And how can I really help you get that? So that's just an example from my life, and a personal example that I think is helpful to hear. I talk about this. I don't have like one specific client example, because I talk to like basically every client about this, whether they are working with people on their health, they're health coaches, or they are PAs or homeopaths, or like I work with a lot of people kind of in the health and wellness and healthcare industry. I also work with a lot of people who are supporting other businesses. So they're web designers, OBMs, VAs, like people, bookkeepers, advisors, like all these people who are helping someone in their business. And I'm always telling them, like, you probably know that you're a right fit for that person, like 20 minutes before that person knows that they're a right fit for your services. So like, give them so much grace, because you've been doing this. You've been on the calls with people. You've got like years of experience, and you've been on these sales calls, and you can like identify things so fast. But this person, this is all new to them. Your services may be completely new to them. They may have never heard of one-to-one support, or getting one-to-one support, or whatever healthcare services or health coaching you provide, or whatever services you provide in their business. They may have heard of it, but they have never really thought about it until now, what it could look like for them, how it could really affect and improve their life. And so really give them that grace that they need to kind of figure that out, and not just like figure it out on their own, but they're sitting there with you, so that you're both discovering. That's why it's called, like, I said discovery. It's also called a best fit call. Like, you're discerning for fit as much as they are. And so you really want to listen and not just jump in with the like, I totally got you. I've seen this a million times. Let me do it. Like, let me do my thing. Let me sell you my thing. We want to really give them that grace and the time that they need. Because if you think about you on the buying side and you're not sure that something is right for you, and someone just jumps in, it feels kind of shitty. It feels like I wasn't listened to, or they didn't really care what I needed, or yeah, maybe that's the case for tons of other people, but I feel like mine is a little bit different. Like, we all want to feel seen and heard, and to be like a genuine person, especially if you are selling high ticket and they're looking at investing with you in a more like deeper way, financially and time wise. Like, they really need to be in it with you in that conversation. So I won't keep going too far, but again, that's something with like every single client. I'm always making sure they don't skip over this part. And I did have one small example. A client I was reviewing her email follow-ups from a training, and in one of the follow-up emails, she put something like book a best fit call, and X is, we'll talk about X being the exact thing you need. And I was like, yeah, let's take that out, because they probably don't know yet that X is the exact thing they need. Like, that's what they're going to discover on this call with you. So let's frame it a different way. So we came up with different ways to talk about, like, together we'll, get your questions answered, and together we'll figure out if this is the right fit. Together we'll talk about like what working together could look like. Like, using more of that kind of language in her email follow-ups just makes a huge difference, because they're not feeling like, oh, well, she already knows that this is the thing for me. Like, it just feels so disempowering. Like, if you get an email that's like, book a call because I know that X is exactly what you need, and you're like, yeah, but you don't know me, you don't know my situation. Like, I kind of get that like defensiveness piece. And so really take the time in the calls, in the emails, like this was an email follow-up, like just make sure that you're using kind of that kind of language, so that someone feels seen and heard and special, because we don't want to all feel like we're just in a box when we're investing in high ticket. Okay, yeah, so have the conversation with them, not at them. That is the first piece. It doesn't look like we've got any questions or comments, but throw them at me. And we'll jump into the second one. So the second piece that is really going to make a difference in someone actually being a guest on the call and actually signing your engagement letter and signing your invoice later is that you're giving them time to say what's worked and what hasn't worked. And this is so important, and it kind of like ties back to number one in listening, but like no one likes to be told what to do. So if you're showing up to a call with a service provider, whether it's something for your health or something for your business or whatever else, if they're already like jumping in with what you need to do and you are like, I've already tried that, like it feels so disempowering, and we don't want to be told what to do. And even like when I have calls, I'm not going to tell someone like, oh, you've tried XYZ. Well, when you hire me, you don't ever have to do XYZ again. I think that's when I know that's when we get in trouble, when we're trying to like promise someone that there aren't trade-offs. And so knowing what they've already tried and knowing what's worked or what hasn't worked can be so powerful, because you have like this like starting point with them to be like, yeah, I hear you that didn't work, but fundamentally I know that it just does. So if we work together, that would probably be something we revisit. So adding this piece in about asking them what they've tried, asking them what hasn't worked and what has worked, and being willing to reflect to them like I know that free calls, I know that marketing, I know that Facebook groups, I know that Instagram, these all just work. And so if someone's showing up on a call with me and they're like, Facebook doesn't work for me, or free calls don't work for me, and I'm like, those just fundamentally work. We just need to figure out how to get them to work for you. I just feel so much more in alignment and so much more of like a provider who's not like buying their bullshit and trying to tell them that like you don't ever have to do the hard stuff again. Because if we don't know what they've already tried, it's really hard to sit there and create a plan with them and tell them like, hey, I got you. Either they're going to feel like you're telling them what to do, or you're going to be like promising them that they never have to do all these things, that they might just need to try again and get them to work for them. So I already kind of mentioned this example, but like, I just know that like people need a client journey. If you have a high ticket offer, you need a client journey that really nurtures someone and helps them take that next best step. And so it doesn't have to look the same for everyone, but there are just fundamental pieces of that sales process that you need to have in your business. So if someone comes to me on a call and they're like, I'm just not willing to do a freebie or a free call or anything, people just need to work with me for 6 months or a year, and I'm not available for anything before that, I'm gonna be like, great, we probably shouldn't work together, because I just know that's what works. And I just know that selling high ticket is different, and it does need that longer client journey and that nurturing, protracted process. And so if I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh yeah, you never have to do any of that stuff, like that's just bullshit. Like, I'm severely limiting what I can support them with when they hire me, and it's also just not true. And so really finding out what they've done and tried is going to make a huge difference in them feeling seen and heard, and you know how to take the conversation forward with how you can support them. So does that make sense? Like, we want to make sure we're not promising like trade-offs that we can't deliver on, or promising things that like, yeah, you don't have to do any of that again. And it's like, all of this stuff probably fundamentally works. And so if they've tried 50 different things and none of it worked for them, it's probably like they just haven't done it the right way. And that's why they need you, so that you can actually help them implement it, so they can actually stick with it long enough, so they can actually like go in on themselves, whether it's like doing a fitness regimen or eating a certain way or posting content or getting their website out there, like all these different things that like they just haven't been able to do because they didn't have your support. And so you being there to support them with things they've already tried, that's going to be the thing that makes the difference. It's not like you have some magic thing that no one's ever heard of or no one's ever tried. It's like, there's only so much information out there. Like, we have information overload. The reason they're hiring you is because they haven't had success with those things in the past, and to realize that like these things actually do work. And so we're working together to figure out how to get them to work for you. So that's I think that's all I have to say about that one. So you just give them time to say what has and hasn't worked, and listen to them, and not promising them that they'll never have to try those things, because odds are it might be a tool in your toolbox that you just need to use. And so like lovingly have that conversation of like, hey, I hear you that you've tried this and it didn't work, and that was really frustrating, but like I know from experience, and I know from supporting countless clients, and I know from doing this for years and years and years that like that does fundamentally work. So the thing we would work on would be to figure out how to make it work for you, or how to like show up in your business in a way that feels good, or how to have an offer that commands a higher price tag that like you love and you're excited to talk about every day, or how to fit in your fitness regimen with like your kids, and you know, being able to eat dinner with your family and not having to restrict a bunch of foods. Like that's what you're really having the conversation with them around. And so make sure you have time and like open space to really talk through like what they've done and what they've tried. Okay, I'll kind of finish up on that one, because this third one is like my favorite. Like if you take nothing else away from today, take away this third one. And that's making time for objections. Like lean into objections. This is the one that most people tap out. Like they make their pitch, the person's like, I don't know, it's a lot of money, I need to like talk to my husband, or I need to book a few clients before I hire you, or you know, I like need to have more time on my schedule before I can create a fitness program. Like all of that is like, if you're just like, okay, my door's always open, I'll follow up with an email, I'll talk to you later, bye. Like that is the number one thing to like shut down the conversation. And I know we talked about earlier, like, okay, if someone's a yes on the call, but this is whether like they can be a yes and they just don't feel comfortable voicing their objections. This is when you get to like give them that space and time and permission. So if they don't have any objections, they don't have any questions, this is when we're not trying to create a problem that doesn't exist, but this is when you're like, hey, like, I know this is a big investment with resources and time. Like, is anything coming up for you? Like, I know maybe you've tried things in the past that haven't worked. I know you don't have a ton of time that you commit to this. Like, are there any stickiness coming up? Like, is there anything you want to talk through? Like, I just know from doing this and having lots of conversations, people typically are having a hard time giving themselves permission investing, or they're having a hard time, you know, doing this again when they've already done things in the past that didn't work. Like, just like open the door for them to like be able to say their objection, because like we talked about at the beginning, they might just not have the tools to say like, hey, I feel scared, like, hey, this is a lot of money, or hey, I've like tried stuff before and it didn't work and I don't know if I can trust myself again. Like, again, we don't want to create a problem that doesn't exist, but literally like be that person who's going to ask them and creates the time to be like, it would be weird if you had zero objections. Like, let's just name that. No matter what you offer, if you're offering high ticket, it's weird for people to not have objections. So like, however you want to say it or verbalize it, make sure that like you're giving them that time, because otherwise that is like the number one reason that they will ghost you and not return your calls, is because they are so scared and they just didn't get a chance to like voice it. And like now that chance is kind of gone, and so you're probably not going to hear back from them. So give them the time to like talk through this and like actively like almost like seek out their objections, because it's like so hard for them to overcome their own objections without your support. Like, to expect someone to just be a yes on the call without any objections and then to walk away and actually pay your invoice and actually sign your engagement letter, like there's so much fear and questions and like self-questioning that like comes up during that time, that it's so powerful to just create time on the call. So most people want to skip over this. Most of my clients don't touch objections. They're like, okay, cool, bye. Like, this is the thing that will make the biggest difference in like opening the door for someone. And again, each of these things kind of has this same theme of like being a human being and like actually giving them space to say what they want, what they've tried. And now at the end, you're giving them the chance to say like what's scaring them. Like, even if they're a yes, it's like you can kind of pick up on those cues. If they're just like, yeah, sure, yeah, send me the invoice, it's like, no, that's when you need to like slow down and be like, okay, cool, like I'm a yes too, I'm really excited about this, but like I know from experience that this is a big investment. And so let's talk about that. And it's normal to have fears. Like, what are some thoughts coming up for you? Like, what are some things that you're worried about? Like, I want to be here for you and for that conversation so that you don't have to go off and like figure it all out and deal with it on your own, because that's when they're never going to come, like never email you back, or like that's when they ghost you. So I think that's all I want to say about that. So this really helped one of my clients. She had a launch and she started speaking to objections on the front end, and that increased her launch by $8,000. And so if that is the case for a launch, think about it for when you're on client calls, like when you're actively the person who is like, I see you, I hear you, this is a big deal. Like, it would be weird if you didn't feel scared or like you want to vomit. Like, let's talk about that. That is going to make the biggest difference in someone actually signing your engagement letter and paying your invoice. Let's see. Yeah, and this is like something I see with my clients who offer more of a one-to-one. Like, I have clients with group programs and cohorts, and then I also work with a lot of people who are one-to-one service providers like I am. And when they can do like the leaning into objections, that's when they know how to follow up with them. So even if they like the person still has the objection when they leave, at least they know how to follow up with them in a way that is really personal and it's really nurturing, and it's really like still keeping the conversation going, so that the person's not just like, okay, yeah, I'm a yeah, and then I never want to talk to you again. It's really like, hey, I know that you have a hard time trusting yourself, so of course this would feel like sticky and hard, and like it would feel like scary to invest. So like, let's keep having that conversation. And that's when your follow-ups are key, because it's great to have a yes on the phone. Love it, when someone is a yes on the calls, and most of the yeses come in the follow-ups. I mean, the stats are all over, but it might be in like the 5 to 7 range follow-up. And if you're the person who like, I literally know why they're having a hard time hiring me to help them lose weight, or why they're having a hard time helping them to actually do the things that will help them get healthy and help their body heal, or I know the exact way they're getting in their own way in their business and holding back and not going all in on themselves, or they've tried it before and now they don't trust themselves. Like, this is when that juicy follow-up, like, it converts to sales. Whereas the people who aren't touching it and who aren't willing to go into objections, and we aren't opening the door for that, they can't really follow up with them. All they can say is like, my door's always open, and here's, the offer, and when you're ready, here you go. Like, you can just have such better follow-ups and have real conversations that people will always remember that you were the one who was willing to sit there and talk about these things with them, when most people just won't. Okay, so we will recap. If you have been getting yeses on the phone, or people say you're great and then they walk away and you don't hear from them again, the 3 things you're going to want to do that make a huge difference to like take these down to like 0 or 1% is, number 1, you want to give them time to say what they want, and then you're listening and discovering with them why your services help them get what they want and help them get that transformation. The second thing is to let them say what's worked and what hasn't. Like, it doesn't feel good to have someone tell us what to do. And then as the service provider, we also need to set up realistic expectations of like what your framework is, or what you do see to work, and that maybe if they've tried something, you might need to try it again. But at least having that conversation where they tell you what has worked and what hasn't worked, and you're like, oh yeah, of course, like, I see why that didn't work when it was on your own, but together this will work and you'll get that transformation because you have my support, and then you're connecting the dots for them. And then the third thing is to really open the floor, lean into objections, even if they're like, yes, great, send me the invoice, cool. Like, really taking the time to like pump the brakes and slow down and be like, I am a yes too. I am a full-on yes. I love when people are excited, and I know from doing this enough that it is also stretchy, and people can like walk away and be like, well, I don't know, I didn't get this question asked. And it's putting a lot on someone for them to work through their own objections. So just go ahead and make that time on the call, and then that makes your juicy follow-ups work so much better. And they feel like, it just feels good when you can follow up and actually know the person, instead of following up and being like a robot of like, here's what I'm supposed to say in my follow-up. Like, that's not the vibe, and that's not the feeling, and that's not when people buy from you. So really like make sure when you're talking about objections, you're being a real human, and you're really opening the door for everything that comes with it. Because objections aren't a no, it's really just a question. It's usually a fear A no is a no. An objection is kind of like them asking for permission and asking for your support and help. So really be that person who's willing to go there. So those are my 3 things. We'll wrap it up, but I am opening a new one-to-one spot in October. So if you are someone who has been doing your sales calls, or you're in these positions where you're like, people tell me I'm great, people tell me, I do great work, but they just need a few more clients, or they just need, to get their more money in the bank, or whatever objections you're getting, and you keep hitting this wall and you keep not being able to either raise your prices or pivot to high ticket, or you have pivoted to high ticket, but like no one's booking, like I got you. That is what I support my clients with all day long. I have been there, and my business journey, I've been in business for 9 years. I started as a bookkeeper charging $35 an hour, and now I sell a $9,000 package. And so I know what that pivot looks like. I've been there. I've been through every iteration of that. I've had people default on payments. I've had people tell me I'm great and they want to work with me and then ghost me. There's so many things that come with being in business for 9 years and supporting countless clients behind the scenes, that I just have so much experience. And I've been here longer than most people in the online space. I also have a data and numbers background, and that's something that really supports my clients to get back to neutral, because I can pull up the data and tell them, okay, it feels like no one attended your webinar, but you actually had a really high attendance rate. Or one of my client called just before this. She was like, only this many people have booked. And I'm like, well, you only had this many people on your landing page. So that's actually a 13% conversion rate. And the industry standard is 1% to 2%. So this is why it's so helpful to have a coach like me, because I know the data and the numbers to look at, to know is this a problem we need to solve, or is this just you feeling like you're not doing enough and it's not working, when actually it very much is working, and here's how we can make that work even better. So I will put the link below. Book a best fit call. This is just a free coaching consult. This is something to see, is this support that you need? Do we vibe? Get all your questions answered, because I want this to feel really good for you. So I'll drop the link below. Again, that spot is opening in October. It is brand new. It's a new seat. We changed some things on the back end with the new VA, and so we've got our systems and processes down really good. So this is just a new spot that I'm so excited to roll out. So message me, send me your questions. I'll put the link, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.